Hello. Is your child on the spectrum independent? Or will your child on the spectrum be fully independent? Will your child on the spectrum be a fully functioning adult without any signs, external signs, or even inner signs that he or she has been on the spectrum or was on the spectrum? My name is Pierre Fontaine. I've been a professional homeopath for nearly 30 years, and during all that time, I dedicated my professional life to the treatment of autism. Not only to the treatment of autism, but actually more even fundamentally, understanding autism. I've written 3 books. The last book is The Language of Autism, and that explains what autism is in 2 words. How within 2 words you can explain all the symptoms of autism. It is not brain inflammation. I've said it many times. It explains the logic of autism. Once you understand autism as a parent, your life will be a lot easier. But that's not where it ends. You need to have proper treatment. You see, you've been told that autism is essentially a brain inflammation caused by a poisoning of one sort, generally vaccine. Not all people believe that with kids on the spectrum, but a lot of people do. It's a belief. It may be a proper belief. It may be that the child indeed was affected just a few days or even within the first day of being vaccinated. And that's when people stop. Parents stop at that event. It is very understandable. But life goes on. And so people believe that by treating generally one way or another the effect of autism, generally by detoxifying the body of the child on the spectrum, they can overcome autism. And as time goes by, yes, there's a few cases that feel better. But that's not being off the spectrum. There's a few cases that may even recover with simple ideas such as B12 or HBOT or some sort of diet. But is the child still on the spectrum? This is more fundamental. Because a child can also be, or teenager, young adult, or adult, as long as you do certain things, the child is okay. But still on the spectrum. We know there's a lot inside kids on the spectrum. We know there's a lot of understanding. Not all the time, but sometimes, but then it's not expressed. And it's mired in an abundance of physical symptoms that render the expression literally impossible. So what is autism? Autism is, I mentioned many times, I say it a lot on these videos, it is conceptual inability, composed of about 150 symptoms. The language of autism goes through 75 symptoms. Let me go through some of them, and then I will mention how to get rid of them. How to be, for your child, diagnosed off the spectrum. Diagnosed off the spectrum, which is not quite neurotypical, but it's already a major step. Symptom number 1, humming or spinning or laughing, not being able to speak, no eye contact, no social interaction, anger with a drop of water on the shirt. These are not behaviors, these are actual symptoms. It's important to understand that. That's why your child is not independent. Lining things up, lack of fear, problem with pronouns, tensing, shaking or flapping of hands, turning lights on and off, repeating questions, speaks only of his interest, handwriting difficulty. Handwriting difficulty is a main is a symptom I particularly appreciate. I did a video on that. By the way, you can find me on YouTube. All these videos now I post on YouTube. Homeopathic services. I'm reviving that because there's about 100 videos there that I did over time, and it is possibly interesting for you to see the evolution of thought and how I finally arrived to a rock bottom definition that has helped me understand autism fully, and then been able to move to more successful treatment since then. Smelling of hair, difficulty potty training, reading credits at the end of a movie, for example. These are symptoms, they're not behaviors. Rewinding YouTubes every few seconds, spinning wheels, playing with wires and dust balls. Can't explain the morality of the story. Or, limited foods, not caring when others take toys, holding on to toys, pressing eyes like this. A lot of kids do. That's a symptom of autism. You need to understand it. Not that understanding will make it go away. That's not what I'm saying. When you understand it, you will be, as a parent, more appreciative for the logic of doing it. This is why I listed 75 out of 150 symptoms of autism. I figure I listed the logic of 75 symptoms. I'm going through them. Pressing in the back of the ear as well. Running all over the place. Constipation, aggravated by baby crying, aggravated by sound, aggravated by running kids, handling genitals, tiptoe, routine, aggravated by changes, not playing with toys appropriately. I talk about this often, too often. Obsessive interest, rocking, jumping, aggravated by cutting nails or hair. And it goes on. I'm only up to 40 here. Understanding that these are behaviors, understanding that these are not behaviors really helps. Understanding that this is conceptual inability really helps. But what do we do? What can I do in order to get the child to be off the spectrum? Diagnose off the spectrum. Diagnose off the spectrum means normal eye contact, normal social interaction or spontaneous interaction, and spontaneous speech. Any kind of conversation, not only about dinosaurs or whatever the child is interested in. In fact, that is also a symptom. There's a reason for why your child will only talk about dinosaurs, for example. Once you understand, autism is very simple to understand. So this is step one. It helps the parents deal with it. It doesn't make it go away. What makes it go away is not B12, H-BOT, vitamin C, or whatnot, in order supposedly to irrigate the brain and all that, or undo the um, poisoning of vaccines or whatever else was given in terms of medication. The reason why I listed these symptoms is because a child with, say, spinning, right? Let's just take spinning, and can explain the context of a story or the moral of the story, will need a different remedy than a child who is spinning wheels or running all over the place or handling genitals. And that's where people don't understand. Well, how can you do something only for handling genitals? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there are remedies. These symptoms apply to remedies because they apply to certain ways of understanding life. A child on the spectrum understands life in a different way than a child who's not on the spectrum, evidently. A child on the spectrum is a child that has a certain amount of tools to deal with life that is different from a child who's not on the spectrum. That tool I call concept. So, whatever the child understands or can understand or feel is within the rules is where the rules of development, if you will. A child who doesn't care about floor time and playing with the little toys that whistle and make and click clack and various different sounds and colors. A child who doesn't care about that will need a different remedy from a child who plays with that somewhat. Not even a whole lot, but somewhat. It's all a matter of degree of these 150 symptoms that can be matched with a homeopathic remedy. Yes, a homeopathic remedy. A homeopathic remedy, if you will, has a mind, a particular mind. The mind of a child on the spectrum. There are categories of remedies now, not available in the US, yes, but categories of remedies now that fit the spectrum of autism. I repeat, there are categories of remedies, homeopathic remedies now, that fit the particulars of a child on the spectrum. That is why the results are so much greater now than they were before. Before, I used remedies that were already available. So we had a lot of zigzagging to do, if you will, because a zigzag between, for example, a child on the spectrum who was flipping from laughing to crying or anger to laughing at a drop of a hat, I could fit that. And then I would fit another symptom. And then I realized that only certain remedies that were available at the time could fit all the spectrum. But it was very, very difficult to choose because the materia medica, as we call it, The information we had was for neurotypical children or individual. So a lot needed to be tried, if you will, in order to arrive at a positive result for a child on the spectrum. A lot of it had to be fit because it was sort of a little bit of moving in the dark. And then came the concept of development of plants, development of elements, the table of elements seen as a way of development, and even the animals. So I use a lot of sea animal that seem to fit the development of a child on the spectrum. Then I came to early flowering plant that seemed to be fitting a child on the spectrum much more than, say, what everybody has given to a child on the spectrum, say belladonna, or worse, ridiculous remedies such as vaccine clears, which never a child on the spectrum should ever be put on. That is an enormous mistake, and if you do that, it becomes extremely, extremely difficult to recover a child with a minimal amount of remedies in a minimal amount of time. A child on the spectrum who hasn't had these completely loose ideas about homeopathy can be recovered within a year. If a child has been put on belladonna, stramonium, and tuberculinum, and then vaccine clears remedies, that's a total disaster, and it will take a long time. Still possible, but it will take a long time. Or it will take much longer. But now we have an entirely new category of remedies that seem to fit a lot of cases. Not all. What I was talking about before, the table of elements as a development of a human being, that still stick. Early flower plant still stick. Not belladonna. Okay, that belladonna is at the very end of of development for plants. So you should never ever give a child belladonna to a child on the spectrum. It could be effective for right now, but it will make recovering the child much more difficult. So the same goes with vaccine clears. That's an enormous mistake, and if you do that, I beg you to stop. But now with this new category of remedies, it becomes much easier. We can go through less steps, if you will, less changing, less frequent changing. It's very important because it fits the child in a very different way than we were able to do before. This is enormously important. This is enormously important because now you're no longer treating the supposed cause of autism, which you think is the way to get out of autism. The way to get out of autism is by treating autism now, treating the symptomatology of the child on the spectrum, not what you think cause autism. If you do that, the child can be diagnosed off the spectrum. Move away from these ideas. You've tried them in many different ways, many different times. If it's not B12, it's another cocktail of vitamins, of supplements. Another diet. I mean, if a diet could treat autism, whoever thought that to begin with? Yes, I understand it can alleviate certain symptoms, but why? Understand why the child has symptoms, allergic symptoms to begin with. That's it. You know, it becomes very simple. Now you can look at it just as general allergies. So yeah, you get rid of bread and so on. It doesn't mean necessarily that your child from that is going to recover from autism. No, that cannot happen. Just wish it could. If it were that easy, somebody sent a question. If it were that easy, it would be great. It really would be. But what is the breakthrough here is a definition, a two-word definition for autism, and a way of being able to choose to fit the child precisely in a remedy with that symptomatology. The very symptomatology that the child has can be fit. And that is a very big breakthrough, much better than ever before. That's it. And if you do that, child will be recovered. It's a guarantee. It's a guarantee. Right. The website is homeopathicservices.com. Send me an email from there. Try not to use the phone because I still have a problem with Microsoft. It's unbelievable. And I'll see you next week. If you like to purchase the book, The Language of Autism, feel free. It is available on Amazon. But what is much, much more important is recovering the child. I will explain in any case everything that is in the book. Thank you so very much for listening. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.